hearts alight with giving glow. Side by side through highs and lows, together find a way to show love that only grows. Lee and Betty's guiding star shines on missions near and far, helping hands like we were one till the day is done. Spread love's light through the night, mission 22 in sight, hearts burning bright. Wreaths across the winter snow, each a promise we bestow, honoring those who let us know freedom's seed we sow. In the shadows be the spark, light a fire in the dark. With one voice we'll make our mark, together we'll embark. Through the valleys we unite, every step a gleaming light. With the Johnsons guiding sight, we make the world right.
JJDrones, they take the load, winging it with friends in tow. Life on the screen, you watch the show. Laughs and chatter in the air, nothing to hide, nowhere rare. Live stream fire, join the flare, adventures wild without a care. Tune in live, don't be late. JJDrones, if they communicate, stories bold, videos great. Join the team, feel the faith. Tech and travel, flying high, questions answered, never dry. Drones and gadgets touch the sky, all the news, no alibi. Underneath the digital sun, friends and fun, they are the one. Learning's cool with a twist of fun. Hit subscribe, the ride begun. Tune in live, don't be late. JJDrones, if they communicate, stories bold, videos great. Join the team, feel the faith. She said media brings the answers, drone and veteran shows disasters. TJ and Gary make us laugh, while the train wreck clears the path. Tune in live, don't be late. JJDrones, if they communicate, stories bold, videos great. Join the team, feel the faith. Join the team, feel the faith.
I appreciate all of you for coming along for this ride with me, and we'll see you later on down the road.
I'm Karl Marx, and I approve this message.
It's JJDrones Live. Welcome to the train wreck. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We've got Ted from Off the Hook Outdoors. We've got Johnny Drone Flyer. And we got Dan sitting next to me. He's down here in the Salt Lake compound keeping me company so that we can come to you live this Sunday. And we're going to talk drones today, and we're going to talk a little bit of trucking. But before we do that, if you would like to help out the program, use my Amazon links. JJDrones360.com/Amazon1 is not the address anymore, so I'm going to have to change that. But we will get that all fixed in the future, and yeah, we don't have that there either. But we do still have our Spreadshirt shop. It's jjdrones.myspreadshop.com. That's jjdrones.myspreadshop.com. And if you'd like to submit a video for Blinker Flute of the Week, email Dan, droningveteran@gmail.com. That's droningveteran@gmail.com. And he'll be more than happy to take your submission. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. Hey, Kathy, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you coming in as well. As you can see, we've already got Dan sitting right next to me. So thank you, Dan, for hosting
Well, thanks for coming by and visiting.
Absolutely. And we have our very good friend sitting backstage. We're going to bring him up. He is the man, the myth, the legend, the one that knows all. Welcome to the show, Brian from Cheesehead Media.
You speak too well with me.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm not doing too bad. Well, Gary is not going to be joining us today. He's still having vehicle issues, so hopefully Gary is able to get that up and running again. And TJ didn't hear from him today, and Karl Marx may be joining us later in the program to talk lease purchases with us from the trucking industry side. But before we go anywhere, we have to thank our unofficial sponsor of the show, Johnson Juice.
I've got the cocktail sauce and the Johnson juice mixed in, so what I'm going to do is just swallow drizzle, swallow swizzle, a little bit of that on there. Now we're going to talk about these tuna chunks, tuna kebab. Here's one small piece. Tuna kebabs with Johnson juice and cocktail sauce. It's not bad. It's really good. Talk about good improv. Thank you, Johnson Juice. Appreciate you. Love you guys. Great organization.
Nothing tastes better, all thanks to you.
Thank you, Johnson Juice, our unofficial sponsor of the JJDrones program. So we're going to be talking a lot about some very moronic things today, but we really cannot go anywhere without spotlighting our idiots that really deserve the Johnson Juice flavored blinker fluid of the week.
Super yummy.
Let's get into it. Sorry, I'm doing two things. I'm holding the microphone today.
Lines, backing up takes them 5 tries. Wrong way down a one-way street. Did you get your license from Love Tweet? Homes are blaring on the week. Still they drive on like a clown. Stop sign means just slow down. Congrats, you've earned our weekly crown. Woo, too.
And it's blinker fluid of the week. I think we're week 4, right, Dan?
Yeah, week 4.
And this one's going to be 1 through 6, so you can put that in the chat. Number 1 through 6 using the hashtag or tic-tac-toe sign or number sign or whatever you want to call it. You might want to wait till the end because you may have a sleeper that you want to vote for going towards the end because we have some very interesting submissions this week.
They was just jumping out at me. They said, "Hey, come on."
I mean, this is the most famous segment on YouTube.
It is.
So here's number 1. As you can see, the pink lights are out.
Gotta love the pink lights.
Absolutely. Now, if all these people staying behind the pink lights knew that they could just see like him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you just go.
Yeah, you just go left turn on them.
That's right. It's pink.
Pink?
You said red.
No, that's true.
Hey,
My bad.
Gary. Okay, so we got 1. We've got 2.
Does it get better?
Oh, it gets better. And here's number 3.
This is a good one. Bet you don't guess what happens.
But if I guessed what happened, it would give it away.
It's true.
think he's fine. And here's number 4. That was perfectly legal. He made a right turn on red.
To the left
He
side.
did stop. And here's number 5. There's the short bus.
I was trying to chase him down.
Well, I mean, that guy obviously is missing his ride.
He was braver than me.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, multiple violations there.
Oh, yes. Here's number 6.
Boom.
Now, that is our Blinker Flu of the Week segment. You can vote in the chat using hashtag, number sign, tic-tac-toe, whatever you want to call
See,
it.
he's voting walking across the street.
He is voting. And I am not going to influence the audience, but if I were, I would. I can't do it. I've already gotten myself in trouble for influencing the audience, and I promised that I wouldn't. So you're welcome, everybody. You're very welcome. And we already have a vote for number 5 from Kathy. So Dan's going to keep track of our votes in the chat. So vote away. And at the end of the program, we will be getting into that. But
Can I cast 3 votes? Pretend I'm in Chicago?
no, well, if you were going to pretend you were in Chicago, you could vote all 6 of them if you wanted. But
Multiple times.
yes, multiple times. Vote early and vote often. That's what they say in Chicago.
Yes.
So we're going to do a public service announcement right here for all of you that are new to the drone community, because with drones there are not a whole lot of people that apparently know the rules for flying drones, and that's a problem, because you can't just take a drone and pull it out of the box and fly. So if you are going to be a recreational pilot, we're going to do a pop quiz to Brian and Dan. The first thing that you want to do when you get your drone is what, Dan?
Throw it up in the air and start the props.
Well, I mean, that's a good way to start. Brian?
Summon the aliens with it.
Okay, we've got 2 very, very close answers. But the first thing that you need to do is actually take a look at the weight of your drone. And then if it is over 249 grams, you need to register it with the FAA. And then number 2, if you haven't taken the recreational trust test that you can get pretty much anywhere online for free and get it done within a period of about 15 minutes, you should probably do that as well, because it's going to give you a lot of information, and there's a whole lot of people out there that do not have any knowledge of what they're doing. And Brian, I don't know if you agree with me on this or not, but I'll ask for your opinion. But don't you think that as a drone manufacturer, and it doesn't matter which drone manufacturer it is, that maybe they include a little packet inside saying maybe you need to take the trust test? And it's trust, Kathy, TRUST.
Oh, completely. And to be honest with you, with everything running through your phone or on the controller itself, there's no reason why they can't require your Trust ID on there. But if you want to prove to know that people don't know what they're doing, we just watched a video of it.
Yes. And I'm going to bring up a news story. And Brian, before I get into the news story, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what we're talking about with the man down in California?
Well, we all know about the wildfire situation in California. And on the first day of those events, a person was flying a DJI Mini 3 or Mini 3 Pro. I've heard conflicting reports of both, and happened to hit one of the super scooper aircraft that flies out in the ocean, picks up a bunch of water, dumps it on fire, and then effectively grounded it for the whole weekend. And who knows how many people lost their house or their life because that one aircraft was no longer available.
And I can honestly say with 5,000% certainty now that it wasn't Dan that did it.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't Dan. We were all assuming it was Dan, but we can all now absolutely say with certainty that it wasn't him. So you're in the clear.
My twin got caught.
So here's the news story from MSN. On January 9th, 56-year-old Peter Aikman flew his DJI Mini 3 Pro drone far beyond the legal limit of his ability to see. What is one of the other rules that you'll learn when you fly, when you take the trust test or when you take your Part 107 test, Brian?
You must always be able to see the aircraft.
And we call it in the drone circles, we call it VLOS, or visual line of sight. So this pilot actually flew the drone 2,500 meters away from his launch point. What is 2,500 meters, Brian? Do you know? Off the top of your head.
I don't use communist measuring. So
well, 2,500 meters.
To American.
Dan?
Close to a mile.
Okay, so
I think just shy of a mile, if I remember right. Or just over a mile.
yes, you and Kathy, you are absolutely right. Congratulations. Yes, you do have to be able to see your drone. So it is visual line of sight. So that was one of the issues that he had. As
the owner of a Mini 3 Pro, one, because of its size, it's very hard to see, and two, the shade of gray that they use on it, it gets lost, even in a blue sky, very easily.
Well, and if you watched my, shameless plug, if you watched my latest video that I put out Wednesday, if you look in the skies around the LA area, the skies are as gray as the Mini 3 Pro. So there's no way that he could have seen it that far away. Going on into the news story here, he sent it into a super scooper water dumping plane fighting the Los Angeles Palisades wildfires, grounding it for repairs after punching a hole in its left wing. Now, if you actually saw the thumbnail of this video, you could actually see what the hole in the wing looked like. The authorities have traced the drone back to him, and he agreed Friday to plead guilty, possibly escaping a year in prison in exchange for 150 hours of community service in support of wildfire relief and the roughly $65,000 it cost to repair the plane. Let's talk about this between Dan, Brian, and I. Here's a question from Ted. Why didn't the plane move out of the drone's way? The plane probably couldn't see it. But Brian, what do you think of the man pleading guilty and what his possible penalties would be?
Well, he's only pleading guilty because he got caught. It's not nearly enough, but maybe if this is broadcast nationally that this is what's happening, then hopefully more people will think twice. But like I said, we just watched a video about people not being able to drive. People not understanding how to fly a drone is probably right up there with it.
Dan, what do you think of the man's plea agreement?
No, I think he's getting off easy, but and like Brian said, the only reason he's doing that is because he got caught.
No-
And they got the serial number off of the drone, and obviously he registered it. So, and he did know that he was doing something wrong, but he went ahead and did it anyways, and was depending on the geofence from DJI.
Oh yes, yes. We're gonna get into this a little bit deeper because I think once you find out who the person is that actually was flying the drone, I think you'll probably find out that he's probably getting off pretty easy. But according to the plea agreement, here's what the facts of the case are. While the firefighting aircraft was conducting its firefighting missions, defendant drove to the area near the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, California, and parked his vehicle on the top floor of a parking structure. Defendant launched the drone and flew it toward the Pacific Palisades to observe damage caused by the Palisades fire. At the time, the FAA had issued temporary flight restrictions that prohibited drone operations near the Southern California wildfires, including the Palisades fire. Now, one other thing that you would learn when you went, hey, thanks for coming in, Jenny and Steve. Appreciate you being here. One thing that you're going to learn about flying a drone is airspace. And what is, Dan, the most important thing that you need to do before you fly considering airspace?
Check and find out what airspace you're in.
Right. And
what restrictions there are.
Yes.
There's a TFR.
TFRs are something that come up, and they're not something that are regularly there. So you could be flying the same place over and over and over again, having no issues, and then all of a sudden one day there's a TFR that'll pop up. So it doesn't matter how many times that you fly someplace. Brian, true or false, you should check your airspace for any sort of temporary flight restrictions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I do that before I go out because, you don't know who's going to be in the area, whether, or what's going on. So,
the Hollywood Reporter writes that Aikman isn't just any old drone pilot, but rather the former president and chief technologist of video game developer Skydance Interactive and the co-founder of Treyarch, a studio known for its Call of Duty and Spider-Man games. THR writes that he recently left his role at Skydance, which would be news in and of itself. Both the Aikman pleading guilty and the game developer are Peter T. Aikman. A LinkedIn page for Aikman no longer exists, and an ex-social media page for Peter T. Aikman has been scrubbed. So $65,000 is basically sock drawer money for this guy. So I have a problem with the fine just based on the fact that this man has probably got a lot more money than that. So
it's California.
Right, and the punishment, it definitely is not going to fit the crime. So here was another thing that he added, and Brian, we're going to get into this only because of the discussion that we had last week.
Mm-hmm.
They also added that there are mitigating factors that will come to light during the court proceedings, including Mr. Aikman's reliance on the DJI drone's geofencing safeguard feature and the failure of that feature.
Wrong. I'm going to say that's because geofencing never had TFRs in it. Ever.
No, they did not.
And that would be the fire. Would be a TFR. So that and I mean, common sense said you wouldn't be flying when. I mean, it's part of the trust test. You don't fly over emergency things, but just that article is just written badly because it's providing poor information on what the geofencing was.
Well, that wasn't a poorly written article. That's a poorly made statement by the attorneys of Mr. Aikman.
Well, if that's going to be their argument, then
That's a horrible argument.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, if that's going to be their argument, then they don't understand how it worked. And
Right.
neither did Mr. Aikman.
No. And
know.
even if the geofencing was in place, even if the geofencing was able to pick up the TFR, which they never did, in order to fly the drone, if the geofencing thing did work, he wouldn't have been able to take off. And I think that's what they're trying to say, is that had DJI's geofencing been in place, then the drone wouldn't have been able to take off, and then he would have been fine. But I'm guessing, and I don't know this for a fact, so just this is my opinion. This is not fact. There's nothing tied to the article that says this, but I don't even know if the man even took the trust test, and he obviously wasn't a Part 107 pilot. Otherwise, he would have known a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to bet there's a lot of new drone owners out there that never took the trust test.
Absolutely. And that's why I said that we needed to do a public service announcement for people that are getting new drones, especially those of you that maybe have gotten a drone for Christmas this year that have never even done the test. Just Google it. Just put TRUST test into Google, and there'll be like a bunch of different articles telling you where that you can take the test. And it takes you, like I said, around 15 minutes. You print out the thing, and then you're good to go as a recreational flyer. It's got a lot of information that you're going to be able to use when you fly your drone. And Brian, I think that there really needs to be a lot of education out there for people, so that we don't run into more people like Mr. Aikman that go out to a fire. And we've had other instances at traffic accidents where people have flown their drones up. It didn't hit the aircraft, but because they had their drones up in the air, there was like rescue helicopters that weren't able to fly into a certain place. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just that, man. Train derailments and stuff. I mean, it's the minute that is an accident scene, that is restricted airspace. Plain and simple. But again, it doesn't matter how many rules and stuff we put in place. If there's not a way to enforce it, it's never going to happen. You know, people are like, oh, I'm supposed to take this. Yeah, I'll do that when I get a chance. And they set it aside, and they never will. So I hate government overreach with an absolute passion. But if the FAA is serious about having, everyone taking this trust test, then maybe that should be a requirement before you activate the drone.
I would agree with that.
That'd be the only thing I can come up with, because otherwise, I mean, it's just going to be, it's like GMRS radios, or FRS radios. You're supposed to have had a license for them when they came out. You don't need to anymore, just because people saw it like, yeah, I'll get one of those, throw the paper away and start using the radio. And it is what it is,
Right. Well, I really do think that people really, if it were, if you were doing anything, you would want to do research on it that you aren't aware of, right? It's not like something you would just buy because you spend a lot of money on these drones, right? So you're going to want to do research on how to operate.
Mr. Aikman had a lot of money to get rid of and probably didn't care.
Right.
But, you're also trying to apply common sense. Common sense would say, yes, you're going to do some research and pick one out, and in the process learn these other things. And I'll go back to my default statement. We just saw 6 examples where common sense did not apply.
Right.
Let's make a right-hand turn from the left lane on a red light. Come on.
Yeah, that's and when common sense escapes, the public, we can only also go and share this story here.
Well,
and this,
I'd say if we got rid of OSHA, a lot of this common sense problem we eventually would take care of itself. but it's a different discussion.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully they will.
This one is a story out of Sweden. Man fined $2,900 for drunk drone flight over car show. Now, Brian, if you're going to a car show and you're going to be flying your drone over the car show, is the first thing that you do open up a bottle of Jack Daniels and start swigging?
Well, if it's, let's see, probably be vodka, but no. I mean, let's look at where we're at here. I mean, it's, I don't think they're whiskey connoisseurs over there.
Probably not. Probably not. A man found out the hard way that flying a drone while intoxicated is a no-go after being slapped with a $2,900 fine in Sweden's first ever case of its kind. It all went down in July 2023 at a vintage car event in Rotvik. Is that how you say that?
Just nod your head and agree. It begins with an R and ends with a K.
There you go.
Okay.
A small Swedish town known for its picturesque landscapes and love of classic automobiles. Swedish police were flying their own drone to monitor the event. I hope it wasn't a DJI drone.
I hope not.
Because if they were flying a DJI drone, they could be transmitting all that information to China.
Yeah, and their heart rate too.
Absolutely.
Well, the heart rate of everyone that was there.
Yeah.
Not only their heart rate, but all the facial recognition software. Those poor people over in Sweden. I feel sorry for you. So the Swedish police were flying their own drone to monitor the event when they spotted another drone in restricted airspace. That's when they traced it back to its operator, a 55-year-old man whose blood alcohol level was 0.69, more than 3 times the Sweden's legal limit of 0.2. How many factors is that over and above our legal limit, Brian? 8 times? 8.5?
I'm trying to do the math here. Yeah, it'd be 8 because we're 0.08.
Right.
So 864. Yeah, it's more than 8.
So what is the rule, Dan, on drinking while flying?
8 hours.
8 hours from bottle to throttle. Once caught, the man admitted to flying the drone until he realized he was in big trouble. That's when he changed his story. Interesting. So Brian, this man actually thought that he wasn't going to get in trouble because he was just playing with a toy, right?
Well, it said it's restricted airspace, and I guess it comes down to the same thing. I mean, was this like a TFR in place over there, or is this like permanent because they're close to an airport?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know enough
Sweden.
details.
Yeah.
What I find funny though about this whole thing is that he admitted to flying it, and then when he found out he was in trouble, he changed his story. You already admitted it, buddy.
It says the real kicker, his blood alcohol level was 0.69 per 1,000 parts of blood, more than 3 times Sweden's legal limit of 0.2. For context, Sweden's drunk driving laws are among the strictest in Europe. In comparison, the limit is 0.8 in the UK and 0.5 in Spain, France, and Belgium.
Oh, hold on. Go back to that.
Okay.
So, we're figuring it was at point. So we're 0.8 as well then. So that was less than our legal limit.
Okay.
I wonder if they're measuring it differently.
Okay. I see what you're saying because of the 0.69 per 1,000.
Right.
Okay.
Because that would make it like his blood was over half alcohol.
Right.
So, yeah.
He's still got a lot of alcohol in his system.
Oh, yeah.
Naturally, the court didn't buy his excuse. Prosecutor Jenny Holden said she'd never seen a case like this before, but she was happy with the verdict. Meanwhile, District Court President Carlin Helmont explained why the punishment matched that of drunk driving. It is an aircraft. Even though it is flown by itself, it is controlled by someone down on the ground and can fall from a high height and injure someone. That's basically the same rules that we have here in the United States. Swedish authorities fined the drone pilot 32,000 kroner. I think that's how you pronounce that.
Correct.
Which is roughly $2,900 payable over 80 days. Drunk droning, a global no-fly zone. This may be Sweden's first drunk conviction, but it's not the first country to take boozy drone pilots seriously. Japan already has laws against flying drones under the influence. If caught, pilots can face up to a year in jail or a fine up to $2,740. And what about the U.S.? The FAA requires drone pilots to stay under a .04 blood alcohol concentration limit, stricter than Sweden's standard for driving. In fact, flying a drone in a reckless manner in the U.S. can lead to serious fines or even jail time. So, this ruling is likely to make drone enthusiasts think twice before mixing alcohol with their flying adventures. And who knows, with drones becoming more common for deliveries, including alcohol in some places, legal questions about intoxicated operators could become even trickier. Now, we're not even talking only alcohol. In the United States, anything that impairs your judgment, whether that be medications such as Ambien or any sort of drug that you would not want to take while you're driving a car. That's pretty much right, Brian.
Correct.
So, Dan, no more taking Ambien
No more
and
Ambien
flying
before I
drones.
fly?
Yes.
Oh no.
I know. You're going to have to...
I'm gonna have to fly awake?
You are.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit taking amphetamines. Bonus points for everyone who gets that reference.
Well, we've got, we've just got a lot of common sense that people need to, use when they're out there flying their drones, because what you're doing is fun. It's something that you should be trying to go out there and have some fun and take some cool shots, if that's what you're trying to do, or if you're just flying FPV because you like to fly FPV because it's just a lot of fun. It's okay to do that too, but just don't do it irresponsibly, and you're not going to have a problem with authorities. Make sure you're checking your airspace. Make sure that if you're a recreational flyer, at the minimum that you do the trust test. Check your airspace. Make sure that you're not any sort of drugs or alcohol, and don't fly over people.
You can fly under them though.
You do that all the time.
Sometimes.
Yes,
I like to take legs out.
you do. And we're not going to mention anything about a nephew's hair.
Yeah, that too. Bet he found a video.
So, Brian, do you have any more comments on that story?
No, I think it pretty much is self-explanatory.
Okay. Well, this story warms my heart. This story is a positive, in my opinion, because, Dan, we could be seeing the end of Prime Incorporated as we know it.
Ooh. Really? I haven't heard anything. It's good news.
There was a story that came out about 2 weeks ago, and we're going to get into it here. There was a task force that was put out now this is out of the infrastructure bill, which is probably the only good thing that came out of this infrastructure bill that was passed, what was this, 2 years ago? There was a task force that was initiated to investigate lease purchase programs through trucking companies. And I think the largest company for lease purchase in the country, and you can check me if I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, definitely put that into the comment section. But I do believe that Prime Incorporated is probably the largest lease operator company in the country. At least they're the largest refrigerated version of that. But the task force members initially were leery about whether they could collect sufficient data to show widespread harm associated with such agreements. They ultimately came to a consensus on the potential harmful impacts for drivers. The negative impacts of inequitable lease purchase programs affect individual drivers, especially new drivers, and we'll get into that here in a minute. The trucking workforce, the health of the industry, and roadway safety. The report says, innumerable drivers report serious financial, professional, and psychological harms due to these programs. Now, let's go back to where it says especially new drivers. Now, when I drove for Prime Incorporated, one of the first things that I needed to do in order to make money, and this goes for a lot of trucking companies out there, is they put you into the training program. I'm sorry, you're not making enough money. Let's put you into the training program so that you can start training the new drivers out there, and you'll make a boatload more money. So I did that. I was a CDL instructor for Prime Incorporated.
1 month after finishing your own training.
Well, no. I was definitely a lot longer down the road than some of the other drivers. But guess what happened when the trainees got done driving their training? Now, they would go 4 weeks to get their CDL with an instructor, and then they would do another 60,000 miles with either the same instructor or another instructor. So basically, they would have 4 weeks to get their CDL, and then they would get 60,000 miles. And then what do you think would happen to them as soon as they got done with those 60,000 miles?
Get a new truck and start training.
They would go to the leasing office, and they would say, "Hey, driver, you just got your training done. Why don't we put you into a lease purchase truck?"
So that you can work up all the money.
Brian, you see any problems with this so far?
I see many problems with this.
Okay, can you give us a couple bullet points?
Well, one, you have a person with zero experience in the industry. I mean, it barely enough knowledge to make a truck go straight down the road. And suddenly they're trying to say, hey, we want you to own the truck that you're going to be driving for us, and you're required to drive for us because we just trained you. So that person's already a captive servant for, 1 or 2 years, whatever Prime's requirements are. And then, if they're going to be doing that and paying that back, then they get to, do this lease ownership thing. So they have to keep driving enough to make those payments. Basically, it's in servitude.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I like what they said about the health of the industry and roadway safety, because when you become a lease purchase program driver, you have to make those truck payments each and every week. And if you ever fall behind, which I have done in the past, to where you don't get a paycheck, you get an invoice. Think about that. You work for an entire week, and because they didn't give you enough freight, or you had home time or whatever, instead of you going home collecting a check, and we'll get into the checks here in a minute, but instead of collecting a check, you're collecting an invoice.
And then you got all the mechanical issues, fuel, and not only that, the lease trucks that they've got usually are older trucks. Not necessarily older, but a couple of years old. They've already got their use out of it. That company's already made the money off of that truck, and now they're going to make it off of you, except for it's got all the mechanical problems because it's an older truck. Now you're held responsible for all those.
So the lease purchase program, subject to the TLTF's work, were arrangements between a motor carrier and a truck driver. So let's say Prime Incorporated and me, okay? The truck driver obtains a truck through a financing arrangement, which the trucking company makes all the financing arrangements. It's not like you go to a bank. Then you sign another agreement to work for the motor carrier. So, Brian, you're coming to me and you're going to sign a lease purchase agreement. You saw that nice, bright, shiny truck that was polished and cleaned and vacuumed and everything. And as soon as you walk through the door, I say, here's your finance agreement with 30 pages of legalese in it. And here's the other part of the legal agreement saying that you're only going to work for me and nobody else. Where do you want to sign?
If this was me,
Yes.
I'd be doing one of these and walking out the door. But that's me.
Then they have all with the promise that they will earn the income needed to meet the financial obligations under the truck financing agreement, including payments for the truck and most or all of the other expenses and repairs associated with its operations. So again, we're going to go back to my experience at Prime Incorporated. So you had truck payment, you had permits payments, and then you had your IFTA payments, and then you had your you had a tire fund that you had to put money into. You had another maintenance fund that you had to put money into. And you had an escrow account that you had to put money into. And this all totaled up. And at the end of the week, after you get your fuel added to it, because, again, you're having fuel every time that you get fuel, you have to pay for it. So that is added to that. And then you take all the money for the trips that you did, and then you subtract all those totals, and that's what you get as a 1099 employee at the end of the week. What is the problem with being a 1099 employee under that program? Anybody?
Well, you don't get any benefits. No paid time off. And I don't know if there's a bunch of stuff, but
Well, number one, I can tell you right now, as somebody that went through this process, that you don't get benefits, but Prime does offer health insurance that you pay at an exorbitant cost. I was paying $400 a month just or $400 a week just for health insurance. And then you have all the costs that are involved in self-employment, such as self-employment tax. You also have to pay for your own physical,
DOT.
workman's comp insurance.
Hey, Jason, you may want to answer a couple of Robert Mack's questions there.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm on the other page, so thank you for pointing that out. Let's see here. Come on. There we go. Okay. So, hey, Robert Mack. Lease purchases, in my opinion, it's a way to take advantage of the driver. Yes. Hey, Robert Mack. So, yes, I am a company driver, but at another point in time in my life, I did drive for Prime Incorporated as a lease purchase driver. And I'm not proud of it, but that's how it is. The panel was appointed by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Again, this was out of the direction of Congress, and its findings were reported to Congress and the Secretaries of Labor and Transportation. Task force members include labor organizers, motor carriers, consumer protection groups, owner-operators, attorneys, and educators. Now, we're getting to the last 10 minutes of the show, so I'm going to have to kind of speed this up a little bit. But here is, they're saying that lease purchase agreements just need to go away because basically the companies can hold, or the drivers are promised at the end of the 2-year period that they lease these trucks that they could possibly get that at the end of the lease agreement. But what the company can do is they can actually control how much money that driver makes, so they can't actually complete the lease of that truck. And in my in my scenario, when I was getting towards the end of the lease of that truck, they offered me a brand new shiny truck with 0 miles on it. And as a driver that, was driving around in an older truck, and they tell you about, the benefits of it, having the warranty and everything else, you're willing to jump on that. And then you get into that new truck, and then they start starving you for money once again. So, there's a lot of really negative aspects to the lease purchase. And there's actually some recommendations from these from this task force. So we're going to go to the recommendations. Number 1, clear contracts. Owner-operators need to know exactly what they're signing up for. And I hardly say that you're an owner-operator if you're under a lease purchase program. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about leases where you actually have your own authority and you go to a trucking company and you lease onto them. This is just lease purchase programs. You are not an owner-operator, because if they completely cut off your lease, you have no right to that truck whatsoever. The trucking company can take that truck from you overnight without any issues. So I would still continue these people company drivers.
And no money.
Yeah, and you get no money back from it.
And I actually seen that firsthand.
Have you?
One of my trainers got, when I was with Warner, they kicked him out of the truck that day.
And you have no recourse.
We was in Denver. He was from Georgia. They said, find your own way home.
Yeah, so here's the number one thing, or the first bullet point on the list is owner-operators need to know exactly what they're signing up for, from truck payments to early termination penalties. The one thing that Prime did have was no early termination policies or penalties until maybe we'll get into this another day, but I have a story about that as well. Number 2, independent advice. Owner-operators should have access to third-party counselors to help them understand these agreements. Like I said, when you go in and you sign the paperwork at Prime, they give you a big old binder with all of the information about your lease. And as a younger driver, I was just so excited about it. I didn't think about all of the legalese that was in every single page of that contract. So I signed it. But you shouldn't sign that kind of agreement without some sort of legal representation. So if you can take that to a lawyer and at least have them proofread it and explain to you what's in it, that would be huge. So definitely have access to a third-party counselor to help you understand the agreement. Better oversight. Regulators must step in and set standards to prevent abuse. Regulating bodies might include the FMCSA, the Department of Labor, the FTC, and the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. And number 4, fair dispute resolution. Owner-operators need an easy, fair way to resolve disagreement with carriers, because pretty much everything in those contracts are on the side of the carriers, and there is no oversight from the FMCSA. Hey, Bobby, thank you so much for coming in. Hey, Bernie, thank you so much for being here, too. Brian and Dan, what do you think of the bullet points from this this task force? Is there anything that you could think of adding to it?
It's not my industry to really know a lot about, so...
Dan?
Sure.
I'm sure there is. I'm trying to think.
I can tell you right now that I would want very strict penalties, not only to the trucking companies, but I would want strict penalties going to the dispatchers that try and starve their drivers of freight so they can't complete the lease of their vehicles. And I would like there to be some sort of whistleblower protection in itself for the people in the terminals that know about this information, because I know that there's a lot of good dispatchers out there that do this type of work, and that they would not want to starve out their drivers, but are basically told to do so. There were several times where I was set in more than one spot because they had freight, but they just weren't giving it to me because I was getting towards the end of my contract, and I was running in the negative for maybe 2 or 3 months before I finally quit and was sent on a Greyhound back home. But there's a lot of drivers out there that are basically working not even paycheck to paycheck. They're just working on the cash advances that they can get, which was, $300 or $400 every week. And that was to feed themselves and feed their families. So I would want some sort of protection for the drivers as far as that goes. Maybe even have some sort of backstop to where if you get so far behind on your payments, that there has to be some sort of way for you to catch up within a matter of like a week, because you can't be operating out on the road like that. Being that stressed out is not going to be good for safety. What do you think about that, Dan?
I like that. You brought up some really good points. You're a lot more knowledgeable on this part. I haven't really dealt with it too much, but when I had the trainer and that happened there, that kind of I changed my mind on it, because when I first started, that was my initial goal, was to do the lease to own. And then I had a trainer that he was doing the lease to own, and then he was trying to figure out how to get to Georgia on his own. And I was like, nope, not going down that route.
Did he recommend you not do the lease purchase?
Well, no, he was actually recommending it.
Oh, was he?
The whole time until right at the end. But I know, because he's from Georgia, and dispatchers wouldn't let him go east of Texas. And as soon as we get to Texas, they shoot us back to California, Oregon, wherever, and then work our way back, and we get like Texas, Oklahoma, and then all of a sudden we're back on California. And so they got word that he was wanting to leave, I think, but so they just dropped him right there. Didn't let him, get him loads back home. But
Well, I really would like to have Karl Marx on the show to talk about this a little bit more in depth, because I know that he has a lot of information that he wants to add to this. So this isn't going to be the last time we're going to be bringing this up, especially if they have anything that they bring back to the table as far as information goes. But we're getting towards the end of the show, and sorry about the ad, Bobby. But I appreciate all of you for being here today.
Jason does like to do the 45-minute ads.
Why so short?
I know. Well, he's done a couple 90-minute ones.
There you go. That's better. Thank you, Dan.
Ask me how I know.
Yes. But we've reached the end of our hour pretty much, and so we're going to go and get the results of our blinker fluid of the week. And the winner of this week's Johnson Juice flavored blinker fluid of the week is
Number 2.
number 2.
Or no, I'm sorry, number 5.
I'm sorry, number 5.
I was dyslexic. I had too much Johnson juice.
Not just for pancakes anymore. So I just brought it down, Bobby. I was doing too many things at one time here. But anyways, Dan and Brian, would you like to give us some final words?
Hey, well, don't fly into fires or over fires, emergencies. You know, check your airspace. Have fun. And definitely don't drink and fly, because that's no fun. Trust me. Yeah.
Brian?
Well, I heard that despite Billy Joel's song stating otherwise, he may really have started the fire.
Very, very good, Brian. Very good. Oh, yes. Well, I think that we put out there a lot of good information today. And if you have anybody that you know that is trying to get into the drone flying hobby, definitely share at least the first half of this live stream with them so that they know what they need to do in order to get off the ground, so to speak. Also, I would like everybody to say a big prayer for Ken Herron and his YouTube channel. He apparently got hacked, and I don't know when or how he's going to be able to get his channel back, because as of right now, not only is his videos, well, this other person putting their videos up, but the entire channel name changed. So if you try and go look, it's one of those Bitcoin hack deals. So definitely,
Don't click on any.
don't click on any of his links, because if you do, you might be the next person that's targeted. So as of right now, Ken Herron and his YouTube channel is down for the count. So just want to make people aware of that. And then, I appreciate all of you for coming in here today. I just wanted to put out some information so that you know how to fly safe and fly smart. Definitely don't drink and fly. Don't fly like Dan with Ambien in your system. And, do it the cheesehead way, the smart way. Sober and, he does partly sober.
I am from Wisconsin.
That's true. So,
He has
anyways,
a lot of cheese.
it's a lot of cheese. But I appreciate all of you for coming and joining us for this ride, and we'll see you later on down the road. Bye, everybody.